Hello, party people. So today we've got a bit of an interesting story. This will probably catch me a copyright strike or some sort of warning or something on YouTube. Don't care. If you want to follow me, the best place to do it is here on Rumble anyway. But the first thing I want to do, of course, is point out that I do in fact have a second channel. And pay no attention whatsoever to the thunder you're currently hearing. And, the raindrops that have spattered me. Yeah, I just came back in from having a cigarette. Lovely day out. Anyway, if you would like to support me, one of the best ways to do that is to follow or subscribe, depending on platform. You can subscribe on YouTube, follow on Rumble. If you subscribe on Rumble, and I'm not telling you you should, well, I will lose about 50% of the money you offer me, because Rumble takes about a 50% cut on pretty much everything, which, I kind of understand, but it's still a bit of a kick in the balls to small creators like me. But that said, if you really want to support me, if you want to support me financially, head over to the Ko-Fi. The link is all over the place, including right there, and you can fling me a few bucks there. If you do that on a monthly basis, I will put your name in the ticker alongside Zenrab7 and Simon JJ. If you don't want me to use your name, you will go alongside the other anonymous donor that I have in the Orangutan Gang. Let's see. Other than that, if you want to support me without spending any money, and arguably word of mouth is the best advertising, so there is an argument to be made there that you may actually be doing me more good by liking, commenting, chatting if I'm doing a live stream, or sharing, which that one especially gets algorithmic attention. I know that a lot of people will say, oh no, sharing someone's video doesn't really do... No. See, that's the thing. If you're sharing it, you're not just sharing it within the same platform, because obviously this is on Rumble or YouTube, depending on when you're watching it, where you're watching it. But if you share it to X, for example, or Blue Sky, I don't judge much. Okay, that's a lie. I absolutely do judge. But I have a Blue Sky account under a different nickname as well. But you've got to keep your eye on things sometimes. But, how to put it? If you support me by sharing, you're actually engaging in the ultimate advertising strategy, which is word of mouth. Word of mouth has always and will always be the best way to advertise something. Something Hollywood seems to have forgotten is that word of mouth is also the worst way to pass criticism. But in any case, we will be watching a short clip. It's about 3 minutes, I believe. And I will be pausing in relative regular intervals to discuss certain things, but most especially, of course, as the thumbnail shows, the pronunciation of the place that I'm from. And I'll say it once now: Newfoundland, or Newfoundland, depending on how quickly you're speaking. If you're speaking to a Newfoundlander, you say Newfoundland. Yeah, I know. That actually becomes part of the discussion. But in any case, we'll come over here. So 3 minutes and 3 seconds.
Is this island called?
Now, I do have to turn up the sound for myself just a little.
Newfoundland.
No, Clive, that's wrong. And I will point out that is the British pronunciation, the emphasis being on land.
I'm going to have to shoot you.
Or land, in this case.
No, it isn't the correct pronunciation.
Newfoundland.
Jimmy tries it and gets it wrong as well, because he's going for the American pronunciation, which is Newfoundland, putting the emphasis on the found part. Or technically, because it's one word, Newfound, then putting the emphasis on Newfoundland, which is also wrong. It's Newfoundland. Or Newfoundland.
Hey, enough violence on this show.
Yeah. Newfoundland.
I will say, I absolutely, thoroughly enjoy this show. It's been one of my favorite British things that I've discovered in the last few years. Now, I do have to back up just a touch because I cut Sandy off.
Yeah. Newfoundland is the correct pronunciation. And
Close.
in 1876, a man was killed during a brawl over the correct pronunciation.
We were lucky.
That's actually quite true, and we'll get into that story in a little bit, but first we'll let this finish out.
What have we got?
Two mill workers, William Aitchison and John Davis, one thought it was Newfoundland and one thought it was Newfoundland. Aitchison threw a punch, Davis drew his gun and killed Aitchison. He got away, Davis, and he spent 37 years on the run. So there's a real...
Davis?
Yes, Davis.
Any relation?
Yeah, possibly.
John Davis, dangerous man.
I had a great
For those who don't know, this is Alan Davis.
who emigrated to Canada.
Did he go to Newfoundland?
That's Joe Brand, and I don't like Joe. Because that particular mode of mockery that she's engaging in is what we like to refer to as talking grand. We don't do that. I do it because I'm trying to communicate with people. Amongst ourselves, if we speak, let's say, in an extremely elocutory, might not actually be a word, elocutionary, but if we go too far into the mainland accents, if we speak too grand, it tends to be a source of mockery for us.
Newfoundland.
I think he went to Quebec, actually.
And you inherited your shirt from him.
Yes.
Anyway, just to finish the story, David.
It's actually kind of rare to see anybody make fun of Canadians on a stereotypical basis. The flannel thing, fair enough. Lumberjack looking, a little bit, yeah.
Who killed Aitchison. He ran away for 37 years, and then on his deathbed, 1912, he's in a hospital in Peoria, in Illinois, and he feels so bad about it that he confesses on his deathbed, and then recovered and had to go on the run again.
I absolutely love that, and that apparently is true. Yeah. I've got a bit of research that I'm going to go through with you guys about it.
I think he said, I did that murder in Newfoundland. No, it's Newfoundland!
But actually, both men were right, because at the time, both pronunciations were perfectly acceptable. It's only fairly recently that people have gone a bit...
And what is it now? Without looking?
Newfoundland.
Yeah, not bad. Pretty good, Sandy.
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland.
Okay, and presumably if people are watching this in Newfoundland, they're shouting at their television.
Yes, they're...
I was. I won't lie. Well, not at my TV, at my phone, because I was watching it on my phone, but yes.
They're all idiots.
Hey, Jimmy, listen for the click. We're all idiots. Well, to be fair, Jimmy likes to talk about how the English pronunciation of things is correct. What Jimmy doesn't know, and I would be extremely shocked if anyone has ever informed him, is that Newfoundland English is actually significantly older than the English dialect they currently speak in the Isles. As the general, let's say high class, upper class sort of term, language. That's because Newfoundland English began to diverge from English 500 fucking years ago.
I have a constant argument with the pronunciation of Canadian places. My other half is Canadian, and everything seems to be pronounced a little bit faster than it should be. So it's Toronto.
Toronto. Yep.
Not Toronto.
Oh, is it?
Toronto.
Toronto.
Like, as quick as you possibly can, like it's a crime to say it. Toronto.
It's because it fucking is. Hi, if you're watching from Toronto.
I love Toronto. There used to be a bar there
Toronto.
called the... Sorry, Toronto. There used to be a bar there called the Betty Ford Clinic.
That's pretty good.
What's up?
A little bit of context for the younger folk. Betty Ford was one of the people who started rehab, the actual process of rehabilitating addicts.
To like. There's some fantastic names in Newfoundland. Conception Bay South is the second largest
been
town.
there.
Conception Bay South is, yeah.
It's Conception Bay South, maybe there's north.
That's
Oh, I was hoping to catch just this shot. Just gorgeous country here in Newfoundland. Somebody's got some Alberta money.
It's Conception Bay South, maybe there's North.
That's what
There's
I call
also-
it. She doesn't like it. She thinks it's too formal. Come on, love, let's have a look at Conception Bay South. I bought you dinner, we saw the movie you wanted. Come on.
We're moving on to Conception Bay North, I suppose.
Well, that's a special treat for birthdays.
It's possible.
Which way up is she? Hang on.
It's possible that a girl may prefer the Newfoundland town of Dildo.
Relatively famous in late years.
Eastern Tickle. Which I like very much.
Do you?
Yeah.
Wait till she finds out there's a place called Come By Chance. Or Seldom Come By. Yeah. We have
Thanks
some...
for sharing.
Yeah.
Not bad for me age.
That's the end of the clip. We do have some absolutely hilarious place names here in Newfoundland. Let's see. Joe Bat's Arm. Places like Fogo, which is one of the foggiest places I've ever been, but apparently is named for the word fire in Portuguese. Though I'm not 100% sure that's not fuego. What else have we got? Random Passage. we do have some very interesting place names, and I have covered some of them before, so yeah. Anyway, let's get into the actual meat of this particular story. And I did ask Brave, did two men actually fight to the death over the pronunciation of the word Newfoundland in the 19th century? And of course the quick answer, or sorry, the not so quick answer, yes. Two men, John Peter Davis and William Aitchison, fatally fought over the pronunciation of Newfoundland in 1876 in Larkspur, Colorado. Now, that alone kind of throws me. Okay, I would have expected that this dispute had happened in Newfoundland. Not so much. Let me see. The dispute began at a supper table in a lumber camp when Davis, a teamster, took exception to Aitchison, a mill worker, pronouncing the word with the stress on the second syllable, Newfoundland, rather than the first, Newfoundland. The argument escalated when the men entered a cabin to consult the dictionary. How many of you actually know how to look at the dictionary definition of a word and understand how to pronounce that word from the way it's symbolized? I'm willing to bet it's a disappearing skill. The dictionary Aitchison punched Davis, asshole, who then drew a revolver and shot Aitchison point blank in the abdomen. Aitchison died the following morning while Davis fled. Davis was on the run for 36 years, eventually making a deathbed confession to a doctor in 1912 in Peoria, Oregon. Although he briefly recovered and was then hunted by authorities, no trial occurred, and his ultimate fate remains unknown, at least as far as this particular response is. The incident occurred March 1876, well, nearly 100 years before I was born, near Castle Rock, Colorado, during the Old West, obviously. The conflict. Davis insisted on the British-style pronunciation with the stress on land, while Aitchison used the American-style stress on found. Now, obviously, the AI is misremembering things it's actually just told us, but historical context. Folklorist Philip Hiscock noted that both pronunciations were in use, and Sandy did point that out on the show just now, in 19th century Newfoundland, meaning both men were likely technically correct. Possibly. I suspect this was more of an argument between a Brit and an American than anything else, or about the pronunciation. The outcome, Davis confessed in 1912, but due to the lack of evidence and his recovery, he was never prosecuted. Official records from the original 1876 inquest were unfortunately lost in a 1979 fire. So, of course, I had to ask, so this didn't actually happen in Newfoundland? And the response I got was no, the fight did not happen in Newfoundland. The incident occurred in Larkspur, near Castle Rock, Colorado, in the U.S. The two men were working in a lumber camp at the time of the dispute, while the argument was about the pronunciation of the name of the island, which is located now in Canada. The fatal shooting took place entirely on American soil. So I had to ask, was either man from Newfoundland? The answer was no. So not only did these guys get into a deadly fight about the pronunciation of a place neither one of them had ever been, neither one of them had any connection to Newfoundland. Atchison was born in New York City to an Irish father, a ship's carpenter. He was described as having a, quote, liberal education. English. I will remind you that liberal meant something very different back then, and was enthusiastic about the King's English. John Peter Davis was a Texan in his mid-30s at the time of the shooting. His background was associated with the American South and West, not the island of Newfoundland. The irony of the incident is that while they fought over the pronunciation of the name of the British colony, neither combatant had any known connection to the place itself. The dispute was purely about their differing views on correct English pronunciation. When was the last time you ever even considered the possibility that a lumberjack and a wagon driver, well, essentially, but a mill worker and a wagon driver, so two very blue-collar jobs, when was the last time you ever considered that these people might get into a scholarly debate to the point that they drew weapons? Yeah. Now, there are some... how to put it? Some articles I'll have a look at. So, when a dispute over the pronunciation of Newfoundland turned deadly, this one is from Crime Reads, crimereads.com/Newfoundland-murder. And when a dispute over the pronunciation of Newfoundland turned deadly, how do you say murder? This is from October, a couple of years ago. The argument erupted at the supper table in a Colorado lumber camp near Castle Rock, a spot on the map at the edge of the Rocky Mountains and about 30 miles south of Denver. Atchison, who was working at Hawker and Gray's sawmill, had a large dog, and the landlady asked what breed it was. So there's your Newfoundland connection. This is how the argument started. One of them had a Newfoundland dog. Atchison, a 22-year-old who'd been born in New York City and enjoyed the advantages of a liberal education, was rather enthusiastic in his defense of the King's English. And from a technical standpoint, I think I probably would have taken Atchison's side in the argument, because it was a British colony, and therefore you would pronounce that as the Brits would. English for the English. It was, Atchison told the landlady, a Newfoundland dog. The breed had been developed by fishermen on the island of that name almost 3,000 miles away at the eastern edge of North America. Then a British colony, and now a province of Canada. In 1876, I think Newfoundland might have actually been a dominion, so it would have essentially been its own country. The St. Bernard lookalikes, there's a reason for that. When the St. Bernard dog was nearing extinction and needed to be revitalized, they used Newfoundlands to bring the breed back. It's been done with other breeds as well. Let's see. The Newfoundland dog can weigh up to 175 pounds. I've seen bigger. And are strong swimmers, yes. Harper's Magazine that year quoted an English owner who praised the breed's strength and loyalty. He can fetch and carry, and if you fall in the water, drunk or sober, he'll pull you out. Whether you want them to or not, in some cases. Davis, a Texan in his mid-30s, who is obviously probably no connection whatsoever to Alan Davis, took exception to Atchison's pronunciation of the word as Newfoundland. The proper way to say it, he insisted, was Newfoundland, with the emphasis on the last syllable. Atchison, as usual, disagreed. Well, anyway, their exchange grew heated. The two men, it appears, were chronic disputants and always manifested much temper in their discussions. So I guess this was a habitual thing that they would argue with each other. Confesses murder of 1876. Quarrel started over pronunciation of Newfoundland. Denver, Colorado, December 7th. John Peter Davis of Peoria, Oregon, has confessed the murder in 1876 of William Atchison at Castle Rock, Colorado, according to letters received in Denver. Davis, who was more than 70 years old, was quite venerable for the time, admitted the crime recently when he thought he was dying. Atchison was killed in a quarrel over the pronunciation of the word Newfoundland. The slayer escaped, and no trace of him was ever found. To find out who was right, they headed to Atchison's cabin to consult his copy of Webster's Dictionary. Language and phrases not likely to be found in that book, high words, and some rather hard names, were shouted once they were inside. I guess they called each other some interesting words. Atchison punched Davis, knocking him to the floor. Davis got back to his feet and, true to his Texan breeding and education by one account, drew a revolver and fired. The bullet struck Atchison in the stomach, but the younger man continued to throw punches, knocking Davis to the floor 2 more times before he staggered and fell. The gunshot alerted other men in the camp. They carried the wounded man to a bed and summoned a doctor. There was nothing to be done. The wound would be fatal. Shortly before he died early the next morning, it was said Atchison recounted with triumphant satisfaction how he had, quote, knocked down his antagonist twice after he had been shot. By then, Davis had slipped away into the night. The local sheriff formed a posse and gave chase, but without much prospect, one of the Denver papers conceded, of making a capture. The Rocky Mountain News announced, quote, a question of pronunciation settled by a pistol ball. The fatal outcome of such a pistol ball. Yet they probably would have been using black powder revolvers at the time. So probably no cartridges at all. The fatal outcome of such a trivial argument seemed to fit the time and place. The West was still wild, and it would be another 3 months before Lieutenant Colonel George Custer and his 7th Cavalry had their last stand at the Battle of the Little Bighorn. So there's another little bit of history tie-in for you. The United States was celebrating the centenary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1876. Colorado would not become the 38th state until that August. Castle Rock, the town nearest to the lumber camp, had been established just 2 years before and boasted a population of less than 100. Wow. The article first appeared in Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine. Some newspapers saw humor in the deadly war words. Atchison had been dispatched straight to a newfound land, we suppose, quipped Santa Barbara's weekly paper. Well, Santa Barbara's weekly paper can go fuck itself. A punishment so exemplary, that word must have meant something slightly different at the time, for the prevalent and atrocious crime of mispronunciation, would entail the slaughter of more than 2/3 of the preachers of Brooklyn. So, I guess the Brooklyn Daily Eagle was a bit of an atheist rag. The paper's indictment of the local clergy included the offenses of saying shall for shall, gather for gather, was for was, I guess, and catch instead of catch. Such affronts to the language the paper added were unpardonable in those who know better. Snooty fucks. A paper published in the Montana Territory suggested tongue-in-cheek that Davis had acted very properly in shooting Atchison. Correct pronunciation must and shall be preserved. The next time you think somebody's being a grammar Nazi or a pronunciation Nazi, remember this story. Incredibly, there is at least one other recorded incident. Okay, well, that's a different story altogether. We'll go to the National Post here. This is from 2016. Mill workers in the frontier town of Larkspur. I don't think we're going to find much new detail here. Piss off, pop-up. Okay, yeah, we don't want to be watching that friggin' ad either. So we'll just go back to here. One wanted to put the accent on found, the other on land. Reported the unusual brawl in March 29th edition. While the modern Newfoundland is the undisputed leader in the battle over the correct pronunciation of the word Newfoundland, it arose out of a pitched struggle of rival inflections. No, it really didn't. It's a generational thing, but just exactly what the dividing line is, I don't know. But if you're born after 1970, chances are you primarily put the stress on the first syllable. Newfoundland. See, the problem is, if you're putting the stress on the first syllable, you're actually separating it into 3 different words. New, found, land. And it's not. It's 2 words. Newfound land. As in, the Newfound land. Which is how it was referred to on maps for over a century. Yeah. Really, the proper pronunciation is Noof. That's where your stress, your emphasis would be, is on Newfoundland. Yeah. Which is potentially part of the reason why we get called Noofs occasionally, even though that's edging towards a slur. I don't mind being called a Noof. I despise being called a Noofy. That is a slur. Let's see. The 1939 guidelines for the Broadcasting Corporation of Newfoundland read, all 3 syllables are to be given equal value, but a slight stressing of the final syllable will be permissible. Yeah, no. That's not how language works. You don't get to govern language that hard. Language evolves. My joke about correct pronunciations notwithstanding. In essence, early 20th century Newfoundlanders would have received their news from broadcasters who favored the British Newfoundland. It's true, yeah. Okay, so I hope that was entertaining and enjoyable for you folks. I'll close. There we go. I'll close my browser, bring back the thumbnail. We are wrapping up. July is White History Month. Tomorrow I will be streaming at my usual time. The plan is to go hunting for the hashtag and see what we can find for good news stories. It's obvious that we're going to find quite a lot about things like the Irina Zarutska, Henry Novak, Cannon Hinton, or Hinnant, sorry. We're going to find a lot of stuff about murders. I'm going to try to avoid even mentioning tragedies as much as I can. If you want to use the hashtag July is White History Month, I recommend that you find something from history that highlights the benefits, the good side of our people. Or, tag something that you think is worthy of being noticed. Other than that, folks, I hope you're doing well. I hope you continue to do well. If you're in Artie and Fist's chat tonight, feel free to say hi. And other than that, I hope you're doing well. I hope you continue to jeez. I fucked up my own catchphrase. I hope you're doing well. I hope you continue to do well. And as always, rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.